What's up, everyone? So, I saw Spider-Man Lotus the other night, and I don't really give a crap about all of the controversy and everything that the guys behind the movie did because it's just not what I'm here to talk about. If you want to find someone to talk about that, you're gonna have to find it somewhere else because that's just not what I'm about. I want to talk about Spider-Man Lotus as a film because Spider-Man is my second favorite comic book character of all time, and I love cinema, which is extremely apparent by the fact that I have a YouTube channel talking about movies and TV shows. Now, I've actually tried recording this video a few times, and I kind of just end up rambling about it because there's just so much wrong with this movie that I keep getting sidetracked every time I remember something else wrong about the movie. So I'm gonna try my best to talk about this without getting upset and rambling about things in incoherent order. But if I do, just bear with me about it. Now, I will also be going into spoilers, obviously, based on everything I just said, because, let's be real, this movie's on YouTube if you wanted to see it, and if someone hasn't seen it, then you clearly don't care about the movie, and you don't care about spoilers. So, yeah, I'm gonna go deep into spoilers. Now, the premise of Spider-Man Lotus is about the death of Gwen Stacy. It's about Peter, MJ, and Harry grieving immediately after her death. I think the movie takes place maybe 2 weeks after her death or something like that, and they're all just kind of dealing with it in their own ways. Now, this is a decent premise for a low-budget Spider-Man film. It doesn't require that much action or Spider-Man time because it's about the characters grieving and kind of re-becoming who they usually are after this tragedy that they've been through. However, the problem with this is that there are so many long, drawn-out scenes, and the movie in itself feels extremely melodramatic and pretentious at times, which makes you just feel kind of ugh while you're watching the movie. It just makes you feel bored as you're sitting there and you're struggling to stay awake because nothing of interest is really happening. It's more or less 2 hours of people being sad until they're like, I shouldn't be sad. Life goes on, and I've still got people that I care about, and I'm gonna move on from this. That's really it. Which that isn't a bad message of, bad things happen to people, and people need to grieve and move on. That's a fine message, but the movie in itself doesn't do anything entertaining with this storyline to keep you invested. The only part of the movie that I genuinely liked was the intro to the movie. You see Peter doing his Spider-Man thing, acting more or less in character. You see him scrambling to make it to hang out with his friends. He ends up being so late to a movie date that he had with his friends that he shows up after the movie already ended and they're walking out of the theater, which I thought was pretty funny. It's really a good opener, but beyond that point, the movie just becomes extremely melodramatic. They could contend with the CW for all of their melodrama. It's ridiculous, and it's just boring to watch. Take, for example, the scenes of the characters grieving, right? So all of them are grieving in their own unique ways, but the problem is we understand that they're all grieving, yet the scenes to showcase all three of these characters, Peter, MJ, and Harry, grieving takes way too long. Each of them is ridiculously long and drawn out, and it just feels horrible to watch because you just want to turn it off and watch something else, which, given this movie's on YouTube, you can easily do that, which is a big problem. At least when something's in feature film and it's boring, you have a higher tolerance of sitting through the movie because you paid for it. You're sitting in a theater and you don't want to waste your money by walking out of the theater. This is on YouTube. If you're bored by this movie, you can either put on another YouTube video or load up one of your many streaming services, or hell, you can just go out and do something else that you care about doing, which is a huge, huge problem that this movie has. There's a long scene of Harry being depressed, walking through Manhattan. I get that Harry's depressed. It was established in a previous scene where he had an argument with Peter. So why do I have to see him walk through Manhattan extremely depressed, where nothing happens? I thought something was going to happen. I thought he was going to do something stupid, get injured, or whatever, but no. He's just depressed walking through Manhattan. There's a scene of MJ getting over her grieving of Gwen Stacy by talking to Flash Thompson. And it's a very long and unnecessary scene where Flash is talking to MJ, talking about the good old days when they were in high school and how he used to be a dick and how Peter's actually a good guy and he's gonna get over his funk that he's in and they're all gonna be good friends again. And he tells her that Harry's around and she needs to go find him and all this stuff. And it's just like, I don't care, man. Like, none of this is interesting. Like, it's just here to pad out the runtime. Because if I'm being perfectly honest with you, you could remove all the standalone scenes of Harry and MJ. That saves so much time. I'm not gonna go back and rewatch the movie to find out how much time it actually takes away, because I'm not gonna subject myself to that. But if you take all three of those scenes out of the movie, that would significantly shorten the movie by a lot of time. And that shouldn't be the case. I shouldn't feel like you need to remove scenes of character development because it would make the movie better. And if I'm being honest, it really would, because those scenes of the movie don't really affect the ending of the movie. If you cut all those out, then in your mind, you would just go, okay, Harry and MJ, they grieved on their own time off screen, and now they've reunited with Peter, who's gotten over his own stuff. Because the real focus of this movie is about Peter being depressed that the woman of his dreams died. And it's causing him to be in a funk, both in his real life as Peter Parker, and he's even considering retiring being Spider-Man because he feels guilty for Gwen's death, which that's interesting to explore, but we don't really get to do anything with that. Because of how small scale this movie is, we don't really get to see the effects of Peter deciding to retire as Spider-Man being bad. I feel like The Amazing Spider-Man also has that kind of problem, because Peter in that movie after Gwen's death retires from being Spider-Man, and then time passes and we don't really feel that negativity of him not being Spider-Man being a thing. And in this movie, it gets a little bit more of a pass just because of the fact that it's a shorter amount of time that he hasn't been Spider-Man since Gwen's death. But nevertheless, it's still the same issue, is that he's contemplating retiring as Spider-Man, and I feel like we should feel those effects in the movie rather than it being so small scale, because Peter having problems in his personal life affects Spider-Man doing things. And if Spider-Man is having problems, then people in Manhattan are put in danger. And that's kind of something that they bring up in the movie, because Peter ends up talking to a few people and they address the fact that he is a hero, that he saves tons of people despite the fact that he fails sometimes. And that is shown through Peter talking to this terminally ill child named Thomas. I think his name was Thomas. If not, I don't care. I don't care. Like I said, I'm not going back and looking up the kid's name in the movie because I'm not going to rewatch it. I'm not going to subject myself to that. So Peter, the way he gets over his grieving in the movie is that he gets a letter from MJ saying that there's a terminally ill child that wants to see Spider-Man because he's his favorite hero of all time. Now, backtrack a little bit. They kind of allude that MJ knows that Peter's Spider-Man in the scene from the way she talks to him. She gives him the letter, and she's because Peter's the photographer for Spider-Man at the Daily Bugle, she kind of says some stuff that makes it seem like she knows that he himself is Spider-Man and he needs to take the letter and go visit this kid, but it doesn't really go anywhere in the movie, and I could just be reading into things a bit too much, but it just is how the scene felt in my eyes. But nevertheless, Peter goes to talk to Thomas, and this is structured extremely poorly. I actually like the scene itself where Peter's bonding with the kid as Spider-Man, and that's really good. But there are a few writing choices and structure choices with it that are very wrong. So Peter goes to visit the kid, and he's acting as Spider-Man. He's acting very happy and jovial, and he's bonding with the kid. It's very sweet. But then partway through the scene, because of how stressed out Peter is as Spider-Man, he kind of snaps on the kid and tries to get the kid to stop seeing him as a hero because he doesn't view himself as a hero at this point in time. And then afterwards, Peter then goes to leave, and he ends up talking to the kid's mother, and she's just like, listen, it doesn't matter what you think of yourself. That child in there loves you. He sees you as a hero, as this beacon of light that helps people, who does the right thing even when it's impossible. And that's what he needs right now because he doesn't have anything else. And that kind of gives Peter a wake-up call, and he goes back in and bonds with the kid. Now the problem with this is that I feel like Peter should have spoken to the mom first about not feeling like he's a hero and that he shouldn't see the kid. And the mom just like tells him, like, please, he doesn't have much time. Just talk to him for a minute because he really needs this. And then Peter buckles and goes to see the kid. And that helps him through his grieving process. Because as it stands, Peter goes in and visits the kid. He feels like how he does after he's gotten over himself. And then randomly lashes out at the kid. He's like, listen, he kind of just like snaps and he's like, listen, I'm not a hero. I've let people die. I've tried to kill people from revenge and yada, blah, blah, blah. And then he leaves and talks to the mom and then goes back in and apologizes. And then like him and the kid start bonding again. And then he even reveals his identity to the kid. And you know, that all happens, but it just feels very weird and disjointed because of how the middle of the scene happens, where Peter just kind of lashes out at the kid, telling him to not view him as a hero, which just, I don't know, for me, it just doesn't feel right. As a Spider-Man fan, like, Spider-Man always inspires people. He always makes them feel better. That's why he's so jokey all the time in his fights. You know, some of the best scenes that people love from Spider-Man are when he inspires people. Like the scene from The Amazing Spider-Man, which I don't even particularly like that movie all that much, but the scene where Peter gives his mask to the kid in the burning car that's falling off of the bridge. Or the scene in PS4 Spider-Man where Peter teaches Miles how to fight just because he saw him getting picked on in the street. Like, those are the scenes that people love the most about Spider-Man, because he's just a low-level guy who understands the everyman. That's what people love about his character. But seeing him lash out at this innocent child who's dying, sorry, that was touched a nerve a bit there. But seeing Peter lash out at this dying child who loves Spider-Man, has every single newspaper who meticulously got rid of all the ones that slander his name, has all this memorabilia, even somehow got one of his web cartridges that he left at one of the many supervillain battles that he's had. Like, this kid loves Spider-Man, and for him to basically just go, yeah, you're stupid, don't believe in me because I suck, have fun dying, like, no, I'm sorry. Like, I understand you wanted to build tension, but I feel like the tension should have come from Peter conversing with the mother, and the mother just kind of wanting him to just humor him for a bit. And then Peter just could have gone in, humored for a bit, and that's when he starts to realize how much this kid loves him and has the revelation of how other people see him despite his mistakes, to help him grow through these things. Honestly, I feel like if the scene was just slightly different, Peter could have tried to convince the kid that he's not a good guy, but the kid's overall positivity towards him would help him realize that he has helped more people than he's harmed and help him get over it. There's a way that the scene could have worked in the way that it's structured currently, but I don't know, it just didn't work. It didn't feel good to me. That middle chunk where he's with Thomas just feels dreadful, and I didn't really like it. It just made me uncomfortable. And then, you know, it leads into the end of the movie where everyone's finally grieved enough and they've gotten over all of their issues, and they start to like reconvene with each other. Now, I have a problem with like these last, last half hour, I'll say, of the movie. This feels like it ends 3 times, and only one of those is the actual ending to the movie, and I really didn't like that. So after Peter talks to Thomas, he goes to visit Gwen's grave, and he's talking to her, and there's like a monologue and everything. You see like a later scene of him sitting up on top of a bridge, and like I was expecting like this monologue was going to go into the end of the movie, and you're going to see Peter swing away, and then the movie fades to black, and I'm like, okay, all right, you know, the movie has its problems, it is what it is, I'm probably never going to watch it again. And then it fades back in, and I'm like, wait, whoa, we're not over yet. Okay, all right, I guess we've got more, so what's left? And then it's Peter, MJ, and Harry meeting up with each other, and they're all talking like, yeah, you know, we're all good, we're getting over everything, and we should be friends again and hang out and do all this kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, cool. And then it fades to black there, and it's like, all right, cool. So that's the actual end of the movie. Great, awesome. And then it fades back in, and I'm just like, wait a minute. We're going back. What's left now? You've resolved everything. And then this is where the movie actually ends. It's Peter going to meet up with MJ and Harry to go hang out at a party, and then as he gets there, he hears police sirens, and he runs off, and he does the Spider-Man thing. He runs through the alleyway, takes off the suit, and starts swinging through the city. And then that's the final swing, and the movie ends. And it's just like, what was the decision with this? Because this feels horrible. Like, if you're watching this for the first time, it feels very whiplashy, because you think the movie's over, and then it goes, psych, and then you're like, okay, all right, I guess we're still going, and then it does it again. Like, it's awful in the sense that it just ruins your mental state of the film, because when you think a movie's over, you get in a certain mind state, right? Like, when you're in a movie theater, when you see those lights start to come on, you immediately know the movie's over and you have to leave, right? When the credits roll, that makes you feel stuff like that. When the movie has a scene that feels final, you're like, all right, it's done. I'm gonna go think about and do XYZ now. The fact that this movie does this 2 times before it actually ends, all within like the last 30 minutes, just baffling to me, because you feel like it's over and you're gonna turn it off, and then it's like, oh wait, it's still going. It's okay, I guess it's still going, but I was gonna go do this now, and I don't feel like watching anymore because I feel like the movie was over, and it just ruins your whole mentality of the film. So I don't understand why they did it like this. Honestly, I feel like you should have taken the scene where Peter visits Gwen's grave and made that like end of the movie, because it's just the whole monologue Peter has about everything that's going on feels like what would be at the end of the movie, because it feels reminiscent of like Tobey Maguire's monologue at the end of Spider-Man. Like, that's what it feels like. But it's not. It's just a segue into 2 more scenes before the movie ends, which feels off. Honestly, I feel like that was probably the end of the movie, if I'm being real. Like, I feel like the ending sequence where they go to the party was new. Just hear me out. I know it's a crackpot theory and it's probably not accurate at all, but that extra scene feels like it was there because like every Spider-Man movie ends with a final swing. But if that wasn't there, and you flipped the 2 scenes where Peter goes and visits Gwen's grave and Peter reconciles with Harry and MJ, then after Peter regains his confidence and feels better about himself in visiting Thomas, then he goes and reconciles with Harry and MJ, and then he has a monologue after he visits Gwen's grave and he goes off to stop crime in the city. That works so much better than the way the movie currently is, that I feel like some kind of decision was made that made this weird choppy ending, because it just feels horrendous, and I just don't understand how that ended up that way. But yeah, Spider-Man Lotus, honestly, I can't recommend it to you even for the price of $3.99 that it is, because I don't want to tell you to watch something boring. If this movie was so bad that it was funny, I'd tell you to watch it. Or so bad that it was angry, it would give you something to discuss with like your friends and family that also watch the movie, I could tell you to watch it. Or if it was good, then I'd definitely tell you to watch it. But as it stands right now, I can't. I guess maybe watch like the first like 5 or 10 minutes of the movie that's like the opening before the title pops in, because I actually did enjoy that. Seeing Peter swing through the city to go and stop Shocker and his 2 goons, and then show up late to a date with his friends, like that was cool. I really did like that. It felt pretty good and felt very fun to watch, especially because the VFX artist did a very awesome job with that. All of the CGI moments of Peter swinging through the city were awesome. I love seeing them. They were super cool. And yeah, you can tell a bit that it's a CGI character. Like, it never feels like it's a real person. But I don't know. It doesn't bother me when I can clearly tell that Tom Holland's Spider-Man is a CGI person swinging through a city in the MCU. So something that has a significantly lower budget doesn't make me feel that bad. As long as the animation itself was cool, which it was, I didn't really mind. So yeah, I guess maybe just watch the opening credit of Spider-Man Lotus and then turn the movie off, because the rest of the movie is just going to be melodramatic, a bit self-indulgent, a little pretentious, and extremely boring. So I can't recommend that. And I also wouldn't recommend watching the final scene of the movie where Peter goes to like save his friends, because like there are tons of other final swings in Spider-Man that are way better. If you've seen the movie, let me know what you thought down below in the comments. I'm curious to see different people's interpretation of this film, because I did see there were some people that did really like the movie when they saw it. So I'm curious as to where you fall on the spectrum if you did get around to seeing it. And last but most certainly not least, I am the innocent villain. And remember, folks, you're innocent to prove villainous, and I'll catch you next time.